Soil is the heart of agriculture, but climate change, some farming practices, and the recent devastation by illegal mining activities is deteriorating many farmlands or arable lands across the continent, or particularly in Ghana. This is affecting the production capacity or yields of farmers. It's not only affecting them, but the entire food security on the African continent is at risk. On today's discussion on the food chain, I will be interacting with some farmers on how our degrading soil is affecting them and engage with some experts in agriculture on the new type or an emerging type of farming known as regenerative farming that can help boost or restore the soil quality in our country. My name is Emmanuel Bright Kweku. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion. This is 40-year-old David Abete, a farmer at Fievia Dugame in Sogakope of the Volta region. He cultivates pepper together with cassava and maize on his 3-acre farm.
I do cassava and maize and pepper, so I just take this all those things, you are not buying again. So if you go to our farm, we go take that one. You can. So it helps us.
Okay, so in a month, how much do you get from the farm? Or in a month, how much can you...
For a month?
Yeah, the money you make.
The month that I'll make maybe 1,000 or 1,500, that's all. For a year, not for a month.
Okay. For a year, you can get like...
1,000 or 1,500.
Okay.
It's 50 million or 10 million.
Okay.
So.
But is it okay for your family?
It's not okay, but how we do? That's much more. The thing that I plan to do this year, I'm not get. So I'm very worried. Maybe that's much more this in their school fees soon. I can't get this year. So I'm worried.
So you're always thinking, are you always thinking about how to get money?
Yes, I'm thinking.
In 2010, David left behind his wife, children, and farm to seek an alternative source of income, artisanal mining. But the dangers of the illegal activity pushed him back into farming.
One day we go to the work, there's a water, and the water can't pay you, so it lets our boat go for the distance. If you don't know how to swim, there you go. That is why I see you say, this thing, I can't stay away for. That's not easy. People are dying for there. But I say, no, this thing is not going to help us. We are turning back for my house and do the farm work.
His decision to farm again is rather met with challenges. He's unable to harvest enough pepper. When did you plant this pepper? And then how many months have you waited for it to grow, but you've not had any bags at all? And how many bags have you had?
I planted the pepper by April. So I just do everything. July, then we start bring the flower.
Okay.
So now before we are just taking these two small bags into.
And then how many bags have you been able to get so far?
For this year,
yeah.
I'm supposed to get about 4 or 5, but now only one to get.
Even one you don't have?
I don't have.
Before and now, tell us your production, your capacity. Do you how many bags of pepper can you produce those years and then even now?
So actually, first I start. The first one I get about 3 bags. The second one I get 4 bags, but this one they are not getting only 1 bag.
You not get?
Yes.
You didn't even get any?
No. No reach 1 bag. So
Really?
It did right now. You know reach 1 bag.
So, but how much do you sell it? How much do you sell it?
The pepper, they say the bank be 20 million.
Oh, okay.
But now, some people say it be 16. So, it be so nice this year.
So meaning this year that you were able to produce 1 bag.
1 bag.
You've lost, let's say, 20 million.
20 million.
South Tong District Director of Agriculture, Shine Akakpo, explains environmental challenges encountered by farmers in the over 15 communities under the district.
The flooding comes now. It takes away most of the nutrients. You know, flooding, most nutrients will be lost. Yeah, and not even nutrients. They will not be able to crop because the area have been occupied with water. They have to wait until it subsides before they go back to farm. That's also an issue. And the erosion with it running away with the salt nutrient effect is also there. OCP people came and then they helped them in doing some analysis on the soil. The results are with them. Some you look at it, the nitrogen very red, meaning they've given them short interpretation. With the red color, it means you are in danger. There isn't enough nitrogen. And you know, nitrogen is most needed for most crops.
So when was the last time you had a flooding situation here that took away most of the soil?
There is even flood as I'm talking to you now. When you get to Hikpo, they have issue with it. And they are even thinking of draining the river so that it can flow to give space for the farm, because it's in the siltation. That's why we're having all these problems.
So that place, they can't grow anything at all?
No, for now, even rice they can't because the water is too much for them to start doing something.
How did the water? Was it by rain or it was just
by rain? By rain.
In despair, David looks at his brown, dried and fruitless maize farm located a few meters away from the pepper farm. Planted months ago, the farm was destroyed by a recent downpour that flooded the village. He had hoped to use proceeds from the farm to cater for his family's urgent needs.
And the maize with the water can't take the farm, with the farm spoil like this.
So it was rain?
Yeah.
Is it flood?
Yeah, it's just flood.
It flooded this?
Yeah, then they spread the farm for us.
Okay, so when did this happen? When did you plant this maize?
The maize. We planted this April. Yes, this April.
So, looking at this, are you going to plant again?
Yes, we are going to plant again because you have to do. Maybe if you not do, we not get anything to survive our this.
This farmland located along the Accra-Aplau Road was inundated after some hours of rainfall. The pool of water on the arable farmlands reflects the environmental challenges facing many farmers across the country. At Amanchia in the Ashanti region, farmers are trekking miles to locate fertile lands for cultivation. Patrick Bricrine is a ginger farmer.
The following year, ultimately saying we are happy. I am reason why this all pass us and for Akoba says just all quite chilly. And our quiet day, Ako pass us and I don't know quite chilly. So, what to a cadron crown, say I would be free honor at the Aban, and also a problem because now cadron also now would be free a room a problem. And he said, what will be a tractor beer? It may cost a distance in the we change you near the idea. We said tractor, so the may cost such place until you will be sir. And the old Dutch crowd only said tractor and bit my coho, Nako Fadi at the Abba, and Tiama Bassa, a bread, quite chilco yourself, and I can do no dear, no question, your brepa because of transportation. We quack fence in Suachina, quack or Dosibia Hassi, what trains you, Wakodo, Honas, Asenas on Kebia, a papa, who draws to say obey day, Ubinia. nnɔbaeɛ no papa afiri mu nso kwan a wobɛfa so a wode bɛba no nokwasɛm no a ne ho asɛm ɔden.
Reports suggest nearly 50% of Africa's land has been degraded. Principal scientist at the Soil Research Institute of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, Dr. Francis Tete, explains the state of Ghana's soil.
Not only in the country, but the whole of Africa, soil degradation is going on seriously because of what? Soil erosion is number one. Soil erosion. That is the number one, which is causing soil degradation in Ghana. And then because our soils are bare, we don't, even in our farms, we weed the farm clean, no covers to the soil. So as it rains and impacts on the soil, soil particles are moved away with the water. You see, so when you see any runoff, the color of the runoff will tell you that the soil particles, the nutrients, and the water is being lost from the farm. And that is our number one cause of soil degradation. Apart from the other anthropogenic factors like galamsey and whatever is happening. This area, in the coastal areas, it is about salt coming into the soil. Salt from the sea getting into the soil, especially from here, Sogakope, Afife, right down to all the soils are annually expanding in terms of what? Salinity. But if you look at this area, you see that the vegetation is stunted. We follow it. We don't have much vegetation here. So it means organic nitrogen will not be enough, and therefore nitrogen deficiency will be number one. Nitrogen is the number one element for protein formation. And then without protein, there's no life, which means that without nitrogen, there's no life. You follow it? So nitrogen is number one element. It is the most abundant element taken up by every crop. You follow it? To form the tissue of the crop. It is the number one element, you see. So that is why you see all around here, crops are stunted because you see nitrogen deficiency. They don't have enough to produce the biomass that will lead to improved yields.
The government of Ghana has activated the second phase of the Planting for Food and Jobs initiative, which produces more local staples. But Dr. Tete says without an immediate solution to the degrading soil, the flagship program could be defeated.
The soils there in the middle belt and then in the northern sector, the topsoils are sandy textured, you see. So there is a lot of leaching, erosion, and therefore when there is leaching and erosion, you are losing bases, calcium, magnesium, potassium, or they are lost. They go the water. So the soils there are gradually becoming acidic. So especially in the middle belt and then the forest zone, the soils have become very, very acidic. They follow it. And so we are even developing a proposal so that the Ministry of Food and Agriculture can see liming of our soils as number one. You see, because when the soil is acidic, then nutrient uptake, fertilizer use will reduce to even 50% or zero. You apply fertilizer, it's not effective because the soil is acidic. You have to correct that acidity before the soil, you can see the effect of the fertilizer. So when we have all this planting for food and jobs and whatever, if we don't tackle this acidity problem, the fertilizer you apply, you don't benefit much from the application of the fertilizer. Then it's like the yields haven't changed much from the traditional way. We're using blanket fertilizer recommendation formally. There's 2 bags of 15 plus 1 bag of sulfate of ammonium. And we say it's not good because the yields are low. Now, if you use the improved packages, as we have in the Planting for Food and Jobs, but you don't correct the acidity, then the yields will remain the same or even worse. You see, because, and then also you know that when there is drought and you use fertilizer, the yields are even lower than the control. Yes, you see, because there's something we call reverse osmosis. The soil there becomes too much salty. We have salt effect, you see. So instead of water and nutrients moving into the crop, it's rather moving out, you see. So management of moisture in the soils in the middle belt, acidity, and then also there is phosphorus deficiency seriously, so that has to be corrected.
Back at Sogakope, farmers are introduced to some primitive but climate-resilient practices to restore soil fertility while conserving nature. So what you see in your shots at the moment are some farmers being engaged by agricultural experts. They are being taken through some farming practices under the regenerative type of agriculture to improve their soil quality, as most of them are being faced with challenges about drought and flooding and even nutrient depletion on their farms. Audrey S. Daku, founder of Sabonsaki, takes farmers through some climate-smart agricultural practices.
In making it, you can have maybe a kilogram worth or a ton worth of biomass waste. It's dried up. You put it in your oven. That is, in controlled state of oxygen. It's fired up just like charcoal, but not in open air. Okay, and then that gives you a black material which is carbon rich, and then you can incorporate it into the ground a few weeks into your transplanting time, and then you can even allow the rain to fall into it so that you can even mix it up even further. I say regenerative agriculture solely looks at working in tandem with nature to actually grow food. Ensure that you're beginning to see the farm as a holistic ecosystem where they're just like human beings. We have interconnected parts. So it is for the soil. So it is for the earth and the land. So just being cognizant of the fact that there are microbes, there are fungi, there are bees, down to earthworms. That all need to kind of coexist in this space, and ensuring that whatever we're doing to the land needs to be as friendly as possible so that one is not affected by a negative action of another. So that's what I would say, working with nature and ensuring that you're putting value into the earth so that it can reciprocate that. Regenerative agriculture, I don't think it's a new thing. It's something our forefathers were practicing way before. And I just think it's time for us to go back to that style of living and kind of be intentional about doing it, considering what is happening around climate change. And it's imperative for Africa now even more because we are not emitting as much emissions as, people on the other continents, but we are bearing the brunt of it in a major way. So it's important that we get back to the roots of things and ask ourselves if we need to grow food, if we need to take care of the land. Why don't we do it the right way so that we're not impacted by all the floods, the droughts, the extreme weather temperatures that is super difficult and unpredictable, so you can't really control. For the farmers that I've encountered over the time working in the agricultural space, it's very sad to see to see the complaints and concerns around low yields, down to the fact that flooding gets to destroy an entire land and their entire crop that they've worked for during the season, down to a tomato farm, starting to do well on the onset and then starting to wither all of a sudden, with them not having a reason to it or even how to control it. So for me, one thing I'm really passionate about is ensuring that the food we grow is also healthy. It's not contaminated. It's food as medicine, right? So to ensure that I'm always excited to share with farmers the fact that in as much as they want to go large scale, which is excellent, if they can incorporate practices such as mulching, these are quite simple to do, not very technical or capital intensive. Mulching down to incorporating leguminous crops into their planting, down to integrating trees onto their land, and down to incorporating biochar, sustainable biochar, which is basically using the waste from your farmland, charring it up in controlled oxygen, and then feeding carbon, stable carbon into the ground. These ways, naturally tend to build the soil capital of the land. And you realize that we are able to not just adapt, but also mitigate the climate shocks that we're currently facing as farmers. Farmers are faced with diverse challenges whilst growing food for, Ghana and in their respective communities. They are faced with, financial challenges, down to input challenges, down to agronomic advisory services, down to insurance. They are hit with all sorts of problems, but they're showing their resilience in such a time, especially with the onset of the unpredictable climate crisis that we are faced with. So I think it's time for us to increase the capacity, build and increase the capacity of farmers, empowering them with not just the inputs, right, to ensure that they can restore land, increase nutrients within their soil, grow food in a nutrient-dense fashion, but it's time that we also provide and empower them with the knowledge through capacity building.
At David's farm, he hopes the new learned practices would be a solution to his poor yields. When did you realize that your pepper is not growing? When?
About this month. This month.
But do you have any idea on how it's not growing? What happened?
Maybe the here is not good for pepper, so I have to change another place for pepper to see.
Okay.
For our land today.
Okay. But don't you think if you apply, let's say, carbon, the ones they taught you, biochar, don't you think you can?
Yeah, I think so. I think that one too. So maybe I'll try to see.
I've also stopped using the chemicals. And what I'm using now is neem. I get a quantity of neem leaves, and I pound them into that yellow gallon. I pound it, and then I sieve it, put it into my knapsack, and I spray. Now, what it means to me is that it controls the insects. It controls it perfectly.
District Chief Executive of South Tone, Seth Kosi Agbi, is advocating patronage of homegrown crops.
It's a very good initiative, but we have somebody who is producing organic fertilizer within our district. So we will support so that the farmers too, they can produce more. Organic fertilizer is 100% guarantee without chemical. So I think it's in a good direction. You have to support him to produce more. That's called for this training. So we are in support. We are dying because we eat anything. We are eating foreign food. We will die because this body is not part of the African foreign soil. It's from here. Anything that we take from this soil will not this body because it's from this soil. We are part of this soil. I wasn't born in America, Germany. I was born here. My father, my father, my mother ate from this farm. So, can you imagine? So we'll die. So let's be serious.
It's now clear on how or why there is the need for us to take up some of these primitive farming practices to restore the virginity of our soil. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion. Join us same time next week here on the Joy News channel for another exciting episode. My name is Emmanuel Bright Kweku.